Well folks, we finally got the last plot planted here in our new dream garden. If you've been following along on our channel, you've seen us plant the 5 other plots in this new dream garden. We started out around February with our Irish potatoes. Those came up well. They're looking really nice now, and it probably won't be too much longer before we start to harvest those guys. Then we planted our summer squash and our 2 cucumber varieties, our pickling cucumbers and our slicing cucumbers. Those things are growing really fast, and we'll probably start injecting some fertilizer to those pretty soon. Then we planted our tomatoes, our indeterminate and our determinate varieties. We've already got the determinate tomatoes staked, and the first line of string ran on those. And then we got our indeterminate varieties with the cages around them to support those really nicely. The 4th plot that we planted was our incredible sweet corn. We planted that with our Hoss garden seeder. We got a really nice stand. Those are probably about 6 to 8 inches tall right now. We just side dressed those with some of our chicken manure compost. We'll be throwing some dirt to the middle and kind of healing those plants up pretty soon. Then on our last video in the dream garden, we planted winter squash, and we planted 2 varieties, the small wonder spaghetti squash and the kabocha squash, and we got really good germination from planting those, almost 100%. I think I had 2 seeds that didn't germinate, and we'll go in there and thin those out to 1 plant every 2 feet here in the next few days. But really excited about how those are coming along, and it won't be long for they need some fertilizer as well. So this is our original layout or map of the dream garden here, and we did deviate from this a little bit. We ended up planting sweet corn down here and the winter squash up here. We ended up putting the pole beans down here beside the tomatoes and the okra somewhere else. But pretty much we stuck with the plan. The summer squash and cucumbers here, potatoes, and peppers and eggplant are going here, and this middle plot, which is the last plot we planted. When it comes to peppers, I'll be the first to admit I kind of have a little bit of a pepper problem. I really like growing peppers, and I always plant a bunch of them, sometimes more than we need, but I really enjoy peppers. Sweet peppers, hot peppers, almost anything I cook, there's always usually some peppers in it. Now for the peppers, I'm planting basically every variety that we carry, from sweet all the way to hot. Now if you've watched our channel much, you know that we always advocate growing your own plants. They tend to be a lot healthier that way. You can plant them when they need to be planted, and they're not root bound like a lot of the plants you'll find at the big box stores. Now the commercial guys around here, and I've done this myself a couple times, will plant them directly from those 162 cell trays. But we still had some cool nights around here even last week, and so I wasn't in a big hurry to get these guys in the ground, so I went ahead and stepped them up. Peppers usually don't grow and start producing till the temperatures warm up significantly, so they were going to grow a lot faster in the greenhouse than they were if I would have went ahead and put them in the ground. So we've got some bigger plants here that we can put in the ground. And when you go to plant these bigger pepper transplants, you want to make sure they got a nice sturdy stem on them, so if your kids or your dog are running through the garden, they're not going to trample the plants. But you don't want to let them get root bound in that 3-inch pot. So you want to make sure the soil is still a little crumbly on the bottom there, so these things aren't just root wrapped here, and if they are, they're probably going to experience a lot of transplant shock. So we want that soil to still be kind of crumbly at the bottom there. That way these things are going to adapt to their new soil quickly, and they'll start growing faster. As I mentioned before, we planted 4 rows of peppers in this plot. And with the exception of the Irish potatoes, we've got everything in this new dream garden on drip tape. So each plot has its own little drip tape station. So we laid our drip tape here. We made a furrow with the double wheel hoe and the plow set. Then we took our drip tape layer, laid that drip tape in the furrow, and buried the tape. We did our rows on a 5-foot row spacing here, just like we did with our tomatoes, and that gave us 6 rows in this 30 by 35 plot. When I'm planting peppers, I like to plant all my sweet peppers together, and then I like to plant all my hot peppers together, and then those that are kind of in the middle, I like to plant those together as well. So on the first row, I planted just bell peppers. I planted majorly this new variety we've got called bayonet, and it's a really nice blocky bell pepper that's supposed to be really productive and really consistently sized. And then on the end of that row of bell peppers, I planted 3 or 4 plants of a purple bell pepper that I've grown for years and years called Merlot. And it's a really nice variety, really pretty, deep purple fruit. On the next row over, I planted half banana peppers and half Cubanelle peppers. Banana and Cubanelle peppers are probably some of my favorite sweet peppers, and they're really, really productive. We've got two awesome varieties. The Cubanelle variety is called Aruba, which is a really nice Cubanelle pepper, and then we've got a variety of banana peppers called Gold Rush, which is super productive. So that's what went on the second row. And then on the third row of peppers, we're starting to get into some varieties that have a little bit of heat to them, but not really a whole lot. So we planted varieties like Poblano, we planted an Anaheim pepper, and we planted one called a Beaver Dam pepper, which makes a nice big red cooking pepper, or what some people call a frying pepper. And then the last, or the fourth row, is where we planted our hotter varieties. So we planted a few jalapenos. I planted about 4 or 5 serranos. I really like the serranos. I grew those last year. I really like the heat on those and the flavor on those. I planted a few of these Brazilian orchid peppers. It's a new variety to us. They're supposed to have a nice kind of citrusy heat to them. So I'm really excited about growing those. And then I planted a few cayenne pepper plants. I like to use the cayennes to make dried red pepper flakes. I also like to use them to make pepper sauce for putting on our collard greens. As far as plant spacing goes on peppers, I like to plant them 2 feet apart along the row there. So once I have my drip system hooked up, I turn it on, and then I can see those water spots on top of those emitters. Those emitters are every 12 inches or every foot. So I put a pepper plant on top of every other emitter, and that gives me a nice 2-foot spacing. It's basically the same thing I do with my determinate tomatoes. And once these things start growing a little more and start producing fruits, they're going to need some support, just like those determinate tomatoes. So we'll use our Florida weave on these, just like we do our determinate tomatoes. We'll put T-posts on the end, one metal T-post in the middle, and then we'll put our wooden stakes between each plant and use our Florida weave, which is going to support these things really nicely from now all the way to November, when they'll stop growing, usually when that first frost comes in. So I hope you've enjoyed being taken along this journey as we plant our new dream garden. I'll put some links below to the other planting videos that we did in the dream garden, so you can check those out if you haven't been following along already. I'll also put some links below to all of our pepper varieties here and our drip systems, so you can check those out. The drip irrigation really helps on peppers, being able to get water at those roots and being able to get some fertilizer to them really quickly. Hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you guys next time.